Hi there, thanks for tuning in. I'm Roman, and welcome to my anime report. Today I'll be talking about episodes 3 and 4 of Call of the Night. Call of the Night's third episode begins with the scene episode 2 ended on, with a girl, Akira, asking Ko what he's doing out, which then promptly cuts to a very familiar cityscape. We jump into a conversation between Nazuna and Ko. Nazuna asks Ko if he really doesn't have any friends, to which Ko is like, at what point do you consider someone a friend? Nazuna is kind of confused, but tries to help by basically saying, you're kind of friends when you choose your friends. And Ko's like, well, I don't feel like I can ask, so is it alright to just assume? Anyway, then we cut out of this scene and roll into the intro. I haven't talked about the intro much, so I'll do that now. The song for the intro is an absolute bop, and there's a point where the song cuts out, and I'm not gonna lie, I thought the show started when it cut out that first time, but then the song comes back in. I don't think I've ever been tricked like that before by an intro, so, that was unique. After the intro, we cut back to that conversation that episode 2 ended with. Akira basically goes, hey, what's up, Ko? I haven't seen you in a while, my friend. To which Ko's like, yeah, I guess we're friends. We haven't seen each other in a while. I don't know if you could call them childhood friends because they're still children. And they're not really that close, but they were buddies when they were younger. So basically the setup was Ko is going home after staying out all night, and Akira is basically going to school. And as they're about to part ways, Akira's like, hey, can we do this again? Cut to Nazuna asking Ko why he's leaving earlier than he used to. He's been leaving earlier lately. And she jokingly remarks, oh, you're seeing another woman? To which he's like, it's not like that. And she's like, what? Then Ko rushes out to go see Akira. And while he's hanging out with her, he spots Nazuna spying on him. And then she approaches, which kind of freaks Ko out at first. And then Nazuna's like, look at you out here playing hanky-panky. And he's like, hanky what now? And then Nazuna says to Akira, don't worry, our relationship is purely physical. To which Akira's like, oh, so it's like that, I see. To which Nazuna's like, no, I don't think you understand. Let me show you. And just starts sucking Ko's blood right in front of her. And she's like, bruh? All right, then we basically cut to them hanging out in a restaurant together. They're talking. Eventually, Akira puts her hand on Ko's leg and is like, hey, you should come to school. It's more fun with you around, which is like, bro. This basically leads to Nazuna getting up and leaving. Ko goes out and follows her, and then she just like flips him off and then goes away. Ko is like, what the heck? I don't understand women. He loses track of her, but he eventually finds her. I couldn't tell if it was the same night or a different night, but he ends up running into her again. To which she seems kind of happy, or at the very least interested, that he was actually looking for her. Basically, like figuring out that the relationship warranted making up. And then she goes up to Ko and sucks some blood out of a wound in his mouth by kissing him. Which, got Ko acting kind of strange. And then Nazuna's like, all right, see it. And Ko's like, what? Also, before I forget, the outro song to the show is also a bop. Really, all the music is. They use it pretty sparingly, but when they bring it in, it's like during important parts, and it really is like, makes the music pretty memorable. I still love the aesthetics and atmosphere of this show, but I honestly haven't been paying attention to that much lately because the story's been coming in so strong. Obviously, the visuals have been good enough where I'm like, okay, that looks good, but it's not my main focus anymore. I'm actually really interested in these characters. I felt like episode 2 was struggling to find its footing, and it feels like it really found it here in episode 3. It was more cute, wholesome, fun, hilarity. Not much more to say than that. Let's jump ahead to episode 4. Episode 4 opens with Akira sitting in her classroom listening to her teacher talk about sleep schedules, and then she's just like silently listening, tapping her pen. Then she goes home, she takes a bath, she brushes her teeth, she lays in bed, and she looks like she's just pondering the whole time. And the way her teacher was talking about sleep schedules and the way she was reacting to that makes it seem like she was probably thinking about Ko. Post intro, we cut to Ko, and he's thinking about the fact that Nazuna kissed him the other day. He goes out to find her, and then he does, and then he sees her, but she doesn't see him, and he's like, no, I need a think walk. So he starts walking around and thinking and doesn't approach her. And he basically comes to the conclusion that he's in love with her. And then Nazuna runs into him, and he's like, I'm in love with you. Drink my blood. And she's like, oh yeah? Okay. And she drinks it, and he's like, am I a vampire? She's like, hell no, you're not in love with me. You're just lusted. And he's like, oh. Another thing that comes out in the conversation, though, is that Nazuna claims that was also her first kiss, which I'm like, I'm really struggling to figure out how old this person is, or if they just never had any contact with humans, really. That was on this level of closeness. But Nazuna also seems to think that it's normal for friends to kiss, which it's definitely not, which makes it sound like, okay, maybe that was like a really old thing, or she's just weird. I don't know. All right, then we cut to Akira, again, probably on that same night we just watched her on, and she's having trouble sleeping, and it's like midnight, so she's like, fuck it, I'm gonna start walking early. So she gets up and she starts walking around. She bumps into Ko, and Ko's like, oh, are you going home? And she's like, no, I'm walking, getting ready to go to school. He's like, bro, it's midnight. And she's like, yeah. And she like kind of lectures him about sleep schedules, and he's like, listen, I don't think you're one to talk. You want to come hang out with me and Nazuna? And she's like, and then it cuts to them all hanging out. And while they're hanging out playing video games, the thing about the kiss comes up, and Akira doesn't seem jealous. She's more just like, listen, Ko, as like your friend, I want to be as supportive as I can, but really, bro, a vampire? Anyway, they're playing video games. They're actually playing something called Doki Doki Sewing Club, which I think might be a nod to Doki Doki Literature Club, or maybe Doki Doki's just a really generic thing that I don't know much about. The show spends a while making fun of the what would you say? Making fun of the dating sim genre. It was pretty funny. And while they're doing that, Akira has some pretty interesting introspective moments where Ko's preference in women comes up. All right, then Nazuna's like, all right, I want some blood and I want to sleep. And Akira's like, we're gonna do what? Then Nazuna drinks Ko's blood, even though Ko's like, please don't. And it just kind of looks like the aftermath of a regrettable threesome. Ko ends up saying that he wants to become a vampire. And Akira's like, oh okay. But then he reveals the love aspect, and Nazuna gets very embarrassed. And then, you know what? Akira still doesn't seem jealous. She's like, all right, I guess I get it. She clearly thinks it's kind of stupid and cringe, but she's just like, okay, whatever, you're my friend. All right. Then they all go to bed. Akira would leave, but it's raining, and Nazuna doesn't own any umbrellas. So while they're all laying in bed together, they're like all crammed on this tiny futon. Akira and Ko have a nice heart-to-heart. And it's like, that scene really had me thinking, like, does Akira like Ko? Common wisdom? You know, the common trope would be yes, but it doesn't seem like it. It seems like she just genuinely wants to be friends. Though maybe if Ko liked her, she wouldn't turn him down. I think she doesn't expect love from him. She just wants to be friends. And if there's gonna be more, I think she might agree to that. But she's not expecting it or desiring it even. And then Akira's like, Akira is having a hard time sleeping lately, so she's like, I'll just lay here and then leave once the rain stops. But then she ends up sleeping a few hours past the rain and the sunrise, and probably ends up being late for school. And as she's rushing out, Nazuna's like, hey, you probably had a satisfying day. And Akira's like, who knows? But we all know she had a satisfying day. I'm sorry about that. And that's how the episode ends. The story is really dragging me in. I can't tell if the visual. I haven't paying attention to the visuals. They're good. But I'm just really into the story now. And I think that made me realize something about shows is that like, you don't really care as long as you're invested in the story, it doesn't really matter how the show looks. That's all for episode 4 and for today's report. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.